The first shot didn't come from a gun. It came from the dark. A scream, sharp, cut short, ripped across the desert like a match struck in wind. Then silence slammed down so hard, it felt like the night itself was holding its breath. Colt Mercer froze in the saddle. Not because he was scared, because fear was usually honest. And this sounded planned. His horse, Boone, stamped once and refused to move. Ahead, the road dipped into a shallow wash lined with black rocks and dead brush. Moonlight painted everything in pale silver, just enough to show danger, not enough to explain it. Colt touched his hat brim, eyes narrowed. Then he saw it. A stagecoach lay on its side, one wheel still spinning slowly, like time hadn't gotten the message. 2 horses were down in the sand, harnesses twisted. A lantern burned near the wreck, its flame trembling in the wind. Colt slid off Boone and stepped closer, boots crunching on glass and broken wood. "Hello," he called. No answer. Then a voice, thin, trembling, alive, came from the shadows. Don't come any closer." Colt stopped. A woman crawled out from behind the overturned coach, dragging herself through dust and pain like she refused to die where someone else decided. She was beautiful, even like this. Esmer, around 25 to 30, with long, dark hair scattered across her face and bronze skin streaked with grit. Her eyes were wide, dark, and furious, like she'd been born with fire and never learned how to put it out. She clutched something to her chest, a small leather satchel. "Who are you?" Colt asked. Her voice shook. "If you're with them, finish it." Colt kept his hands open. "I'm not with anyone. Name." She hesitated, then spat the words like a curse. "Jasmine Vale." Colt's jaw tightened. He'd heard that name 2 nights ago, whispered by a dying gambler in a back room in Dry Creek. "If you've got any good left in you, find Jasmine Vale. They're taking her to Lark's Crossing." Colt glanced past her at the wreck. That wasn't a robbery. That was a message. Jasmine tried to stand and nearly collapsed. Colt caught her before she hit the sand. She flinched at his touch. Not afraid of him, afraid of what touching meant. That she'd have to trust someone. "Easy," Colt said. "You're hurt." Jasmine's breath came fast. "They'll be back." Colt heard it then, faint, distant. Hooves, more than one rider. Jasmine's eyes locked on his. "If you help me, they'll kill you." Colt's voice stayed flat. "If I don't, they'll kill you." The hooves grew louder. Colt lifted Jasmine onto Boone like she weighed nothing. Like he'd done this before. Like saving someone was muscle memory he hated having. "Hold on," he told her. Jasmine gripped the saddle horn, jaw clenched in pain. Colt swung up behind her, turned Boone off the road, and pushed into the scrub where moonlight broke into shards through the rocks. Seconds later, 3 riders thundered into the wash. Colt caught a glimpse of them between boulders. Dark coats, rifles, faces covered with scarves. One of them dismounted and walked to the wreck. He looked down at the blood in the sand. Then he smiled. Colt's stomach went cold. This wasn't a gang. This was an operation. They rode hard until the rocks turned into open desert again. Colt guided Boone into a shallow ravine and finally stopped beneath a crooked mesquite tree. Jasmine slid down, legs shaking. Colt offered a canteen. She drank, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, and stared at him like she was reading the parts of him he didn't show. "You're not a bounty hunter," she said. Colt raised a brow. "What makes you think that?" "You didn't ask me what I'm worth," she replied. "You asked my name." Colt looked toward the horizon. "Why did they hit the coach?" Jasmine hugged the satchel tighter. "Because of what's in here." Colt's eyes narrowed. "What is it?" Jasmine's voice dropped. "A ledger." Colt exhaled slowly. Of course it was. A ledger in the West was more dangerous than a rifle, because bullets killed one man at a time, but paper could burn down an empire. Jasmine continued, words sharp. Lark's Crossing is owned by a man named Mayor Voss. He's not a mayor, he's a king. He buys land with threats and buries the ones who refuse. Colt watched her carefully. And you stole his book. Jasmine's eyes flashed. I didn't steal it. I took it back. She opened the satchel just enough for Colt to see folded papers, marked with names and numbers. Blood smudged the corner like a signature. He had my brother arrested for stealing his own cattle, she said. 2 days later, my brother fell off a jail balcony. Her voice didn't crack. It sharpened. So I went into Voss's office and took the only thing he respects. Proof. Colt felt something old stir in his chest, something like anger, something like shame. Where were you taking it? He asked. Redstone, Jasmine replied. Circuit judge, newspaper, anyone not bought. Colt nodded once. And the coach was your cover. Jasmine gave a bitter laugh. It was supposed to be. Colt leaned in. Listen to me, Jasmine. Those men are trackers. They'll circle until they smell you. Jasmine's gaze held. Then don't let them smell me. A single gunshot popped in the distance. Testing. Searching. Colt stood. We move. Now. They rode through the night toward Lark's Crossing because Colt knew something important. If you keep running forever, you die tired. If you turn back at the right moment, you might live free. As dawn threatened the horizon with gray light, the town appeared. Low buildings, a water tower, a church with a crooked cross, and a wide main street that looked too clean, too controlled. A sign read, Lark's Crossing. Jasmine's voice went tight. This is where he owns everything. Colt said. Then we don't fight everything. We fight the part that matters. They didn't enter down the center road. Colt led Boone behind the feed store, past the back of the saloon, into the shadow of a livery barn. Jasmine slid down, breathing fast. What's your plan? Colt looked at her. You trust me? Jasmine's eyes narrowed. No. Colt nodded. Good. That means you're smart. He pointed at the satchel. We make a copy of 2 pages, then we split the proof. Jasmine hesitated. We don't have time, Colt said. Time is something you make. Inside the livery, a sleepy stable hand looked up. Colt tossed him a coin. Need ink and paper, Colt said. And you didn't see us. The boy blinked at the money, then nodded like his life depended on it. Minutes later, Jasmine was hunched over a barrel, copying names with fierce concentration, hand steady despite bruises. Colt watched the alley, revolver ready. From the saloon, laughter spilled, men waking up to drink and forget. From the sheriff's office, a door opened. A man stepped out wearing a badge and a tired expression. Sheriff Marlow. He paused, scanning the street like he expected trouble to greet him every morning. Colt's eyes narrowed. Sheriff Marlow's gaze drifted toward the livery, toward Colt, toward Jasmine. For a moment, the sheriff's face changed, recognition flickering like a match. Jasmine whispered, That's Voss's dog, Colt murmured back. Dogs can bite the hand that feeds them. The sheriff started walking toward them. Colt put a hand near his gun, not drawing, just making a point. Sheriff Marlow stopped a few steps away. His voice was low. You don't belong here. Colt replied, Neither does corruption. Marlow's eyes flicked to Jasmine. Miss Vale, you're supposed to be dead. Jasmine's jaw clenched. You tried to make me. Marlow's face tightened with something like guilt. You don't understand what Voss does to people. Jasmine stepped forward, fearless. I understand exactly. That's why I'm ending it. She held up the copied page. Marlow stared. His throat bobbed. If you take that to Redstone, this town burns, Colt said. It's already burning. You just pretend you can't smell the smoke. Marlow's hands trembled. Voss will kill everyone who helped you. Jasmine's eyes didn't blink. Then choose who you help right now. Footsteps pounded from the far end of the alley. 3 riders, same scarves, same cold posture, had found the trail and entered town like they owned it. Jasmine's breath hitched. They're here. Colt took the copied pages and tucked them into his coat. He handed Jasmine the original ledger. Split proof, he said. If one of us falls, the truth still rides. Sheriff Marlow looked between them like a man standing on a cliff. The riders approached, rifles loose in their hands. One called out, loud and cheerful. Morning, Sheriff. We're looking for a woman who stole something that belongs to Mayor Voss. Marlow swallowed. Then he did something Colt didn't expect. He stepped forward and blocked their path. His voice shook, but it held. You boys got warrants? The lead rider laughed. Sheriff, don't be stupid. Marlow's hand hovered over his holster. I'm tired of being smart. The rider's smile died. Move! Marlow didn't. The rider raised his gun. Colt drew first. One shot, clean. The rider's gun flew out of his hand, spinning into the dust. The street exploded into chaos. Glass shattered. Men yelled. Jasmine ran, straight to the water tower ladder, climbing like a woman who refused to hide anymore. At the top, she tied the ledger pages into a cloth bundle and shoved it into the bell housing out of reach. Then she drew her revolver and aimed down at the street, hair whipping in the wind like a banner. Colt moved through the alley like a shadow, firing only when he had to. Sheriff Marlow fought beside him, not brave like a legend, brave like a man who'd waited too long and finally snapped. Mayor Voss appeared on the saloon balcony, face red with rage. Kill them! Voss screamed. Bring me the book! Jasmine shouted back, voice carrying over the town like a verdict. You don't own this town, Voss. She fired, one shot, into the balcony railing near Voss's hand, forcing him back. It wasn't about hitting him. It was about humiliating him in front of everyone he controlled. The crowd, quiet townsfolk who'd watched from doors, began to stir. A woman stepped out holding her child. A rancher raised his rifle. A storekeeper picked up a shotgun from behind the counter. Fear had kept them still. But proof, and a woman willing to stand in the open, made fear change shape. The scarves tried to push forward again. Colt fired into a barrel stack, rolling it into the street, blocking the riders. Sheriff Marlow yelled, To the East Road! Get her out! Colt looked up at Jasmine. She climbed down fast, jumped into the saddle, clutching the ledger tight. Colt mounted Boone and rode beside her as they burst out of town through a storm of dust and shouting. Behind them, Lark's crossing wasn't silent anymore. It was awake. They didn't stop until the town was a smear on the horizon and the desert was honest again. At a dry creek, Jasmine finally slowed, breathing hard, eyes bright. Colt watched her, half expecting her to collapse. She didn't. She turned to him, voice low. You didn't have to do this. Colt's gaze drifted to the rising sun. I did. Jasmine held up the ledger. This will get men killed. Colt nodded. It'll get men stopped. Jasmine's lips parted like she wanted to say something softer, but she stayed sharp, because softness had costs. Why'd you come? She asked. Colt's jaw tightened. Because I once left someone on a road like that stagecoach. Told myself it wasn't my problem. He met her eyes. And I've been paying for it ever since. Jasmine studied him for a long moment. Then she reached into the satchel and tore out a single page. Names of Voss's buyers in other towns. She handed it to Colt. Colt frowned. What's this for? Jasmine's voice was steady. For the road ahead. Men like Voss don't die from one bullet. They die when their whole chain breaks. Colt tucked the page into his coat. Jasmine's eyes softened, just a fraction. If you ever ride to Redstone, find me. Colt didn't promise, but he tipped his hat. That depends, he said. On what? Jasmine asked. Colt's mouth curved, almost a smile. On whether Redstone deserves you. Jasmine snorted, half laugh, half breath. And whether you deserve sleep. They rode until the road split. Redstone east, open desert west. Jasmine turned her horse toward the sun. Colt turned toward the empty horizon. For a moment, they rode apart, but felt connected by something stronger than words. A truth stolen from a tyrant. A town that finally remembered how to stand. And a beautiful, dark-haired woman named Jasmine Vale, who refused to disappear quietly. Because in the West, legends weren't born from guns. They were born from choices. And Jasmine had made hers. The end.